Welcome to the Fierce as Fuck podcast. My name is Amanda King, and I help women step out of the fear that is holding them back and into six-figure sales. This podcast will teach you how to grow your business organically without all of the bells and whistles. Yep, that's right. No websites, no sales funnels, none of that shit needed here. I grew my coaching business from $0 in sales to $100K in 3 months. And now it's my mission to teach you to do the exact same thing. So let me ask you this. Are you ready for some epic shit? Hello, everybody. So I feel like I start every podcast episode out with this lately, but I had another reel go viral on Facebook, and I wanted to get up here and discuss it because the reel was geared towards men. And basically, I'm going to just make it real short and tell you what it was about. It was about me saying that men hold more value in a relationship and in sex than just the size of their penis, because I believe that men are programmed to be really self-conscious about the size of their penis, right? Society ties the size of your dick to your masculinity. And so there are a lot of men out there that are so concerned with their size of their penis. And I get DMs all the fucking time from men being like, what's the best length? What feels the best? And they're so focused on their penis that they're not recognizing there are so many other aspects to connecting with women. And so I put this reel out there, and don't worry, this is not going to be a whole podcast episode dedicated to men's dicks. I've spoken enough about this. I'm fucking over the topic. But I noticed on the reel, there seemed to be a lot of hate by men, because God forbid you tell them that their penis doesn't fucking matter. But I noticed a few other men commenting a specific, I guess, phrase. And the comment was, you were talking about two different things. That's what's wrong with this reel. You are talking about sex and you're talking about relationships. They are not the same. And that made me sit here and think, that's an interesting perspective. Because what I was talking about was the fact that men should have more value in themselves than the size of their dicks, and that women don't really focus on the size of your penis, more about how you treat them and how you respect them and how much you show you care. And there was literal dozens of comments from men saying sex and relationships are different. This video is about two different topics. But I don't think it was. So I kind of want to discuss the question, or kind of give you my thought, my perspective on the question of is there a difference between just sex and being in a relationship? Because I think to men there is, but I think to women there really isn't. And so I kind of want to discuss those two viewpoints today and really kind of dive into this topic because it's so interesting. Out of all of the comments I got, I never would expect this one. You were speaking of two different things entirely. Sex and relationships are different. And as a woman, I sit here and I look at this comment and I think, no, they're not at all. Sex involves two people connecting intimately with each other. Sex involves a level of trust, a level of vulnerability, a level of emotion brought into it. So do relationships. So if I am sitting here and saying, this is how you please a woman, it doesn't really matter if it's in sex or a relationship, because in my brain, I loop them into one thing, because both of them, from a woman's perspective, involve vulnerability, trust, emotions, connection, and intimacy. And I don't speak for all women, which also was a comment that was all over that fucking TikTok. Who is she to speak for all women? I don't fucking speak for all women, and I don't try to act like I do. I share my perspective with the world, And y'all can take it or leave it. There are women out there that, yeah, dick size fucking matters. There are women out there, and fuck me if I wish I could be one of these women. There are women out there that are so secure with themselves and are not conditioned by society like the rest of us to believe that if we have sex just to have sex, we're fucking whores. And so there are women out there who can have emotionless sex. They can make sex just mean about getting off. And I know this. I know people who are like this, who can have multiple partners or who can sleep with other people without getting feelings involved. I personally am not one of them. And so when you come up onto my reel and try to tell me that sex and relationships are two different things, I don't agree with that at all. And I think that is your excuse as men not to treat women fairly and not to put in the fucking effort that you should be putting in, because in your head, you've labeled it as just sex. So if I am just fucking sticking my dick in this woman, then I don't need to really show her respect. I don't need to show her care. I don't need to show her love, because all this is penetration and orgasm. And I think it's really interesting if we even dissect this further, how different this is to men and women. How men are allowed to grow up in a society where they are given the permission to be able to have sex without getting feelings involved. They're encouraged to. And if you don't believe me, go, dudes, go watch all fucking all movies, all TV. All of it is geared towards the fact that men are typically allowed to have affairs. They're allowed to have multiple partners, right? We even look at The Art of Seduction by Robert Greene, which is a book dedicated to teaching the 10 archetypes of seduction. And one of them is the rake, and it is a male rake, and the male rake has multiple partners. But there's not even an archetype for a woman that has multiple partners. He says right in the book, the rake is male, because men believe that they have, or men have the permission to have sex with all of these women without getting emotionally involved. And society pats them on the fucking back for it. Even if you take TV shows like Bridgerton, right? Everyone fucking loves Bridgerton. You look at people like the Count and Anthony Bridgerton, and they are wealthy men in British society in, I don't know when it takes place, 1900s, that are sleeping with all of these women. And society is like, go you. Society is sitting here and saying, you're allowed to do this. We know that you do this, and we think it's amazing because you have money and you're a bachelor. And the women that are his conquest end up in some weird type of competition with each other to be the woman who makes him settle down, that makes him feel those emotions. Notice how society doesn't pat her on the back when she walks away from him and she goes and then sleeps with other people. No, instead, they deem her as a whore. Even if you take Bridgerton as the example, Anthony Bridgerton has a relationship with I think she's an opera singer, in the first season, and people look down on her because she has money. She doesn't have money, and because she's sleeping with him before marriage, because she's exploring her sexuality with him before marriage. They put him on a pedestal, and she is deemed too big of a whore for him to settle down and marry. She's not good enough. And this is the conditioning that is pushed upon women from the second we get put on this planet. We are told that if we are sexual beings, if we want to sleep with multiple partners, that society has the right to point the finger and call us whores, call us trollops, call us sluts, right? There's 1,000 other names. But really, if we stop and think about, what do we call men who sleep around with multiple women? We call them players. We say that they have game. We say that they're bachelors and rakes, none of which have a negative connotation. But women are whores. Women are sluts. Stop and think about how that plays into the fact that women feel that sex and relationships deserve the same energy and men don't. Men believe that to have sex with a woman, and I'm not saying this is all men, so don't come at me if you're listening to this, gentlemen. I'm well aware this is not all men, but society allows it to be all men. Society allows men to enter multiple relationships with multiple people, and never once does it call him a whore. Not once. It applauds him. It allows him to separate his emotions from sex. And then I will get hit, which I've gotten hit with comments too of like, this is men's biochemistry. It's not society, it's DNA, which is also bullshit. Unless you have an article, like a scientific article that says men are more preempt or predisposed because of their DNA to be fuckboys. Don't come at me with those fucking things, because that is an excuse you were using in order to act like a fuckboy. Oh, it's in my DNA. That Y chromosome, oh man, it changes everything. It doesn't. It is because society gives you the permission to do so. And so men, I think, are better at compartmentalizing sex from relationships. And yet, I think it's super fucked up that men think that the same amount of energy that goes into relationships doesn't go or doesn't deserve to go into sex. And in their brains, it's two different things. And it stuns me, to be quite honest, because as a woman growing up in society, and once again, I will say it, this is my perspective. I was always believed that I had to be emotionally connected to someone in order to sleep with them. If we look at virginity as a construct, as a whole, virginity was never a fucking big issue with men in society. Men were allowed, once again, to fuck around at any age, but a woman had to stay pure, because if she didn't, she was a whore. And she had to stay pure to marriage so that her husband was the only man who ever had her, but he could have as many women as he wants. And so women are literally grown up to believe that even the concept of virginity is you should lose it to someone you care about, is what we are told. And I don't disagree with that, right? Your first time is really vulnerable. Your first time is awkward as fuck. Let's be real. No one has a good first time of sex. Like, I was 16. No, yeah, I think I was 16 when I lost my virginity, and it was awkward. There was nothing really fun or lovely about it. And women typically don't even have orgasms the first time they ever have sex in general with a man, which is a whole other fucking discussion for another day. So when we look at virginity, and we as women are told, no, you need to have emotions involved to have sex, because if you don't, it means you're a whore. And we wonder, or I guess we sit here, and it just further shows that like women are so much more conditioned to men in this area, because we are made to believe that. And so we tie emotions with sex and relationships. We expect men to treat us the same if they're just fucking us and if they are in a relationship with us. That's how our brains work, or at least that's how my brain works. Let me take that even out of the perspective of adding that to other women's perspectives. That's how my brain works, is that I am going to have sex with you, or I'm going to allow you to connect with me on an intimate level, because regardless, sex is intimate. Sex requires vulnerability and trust. And so if I am going to allow you to see me like that, in a way that not a lot of men on this world or this planet have seen me. You best believe that you are going to have to treat me well in order to receive that level of intimacy with me. And I don't give a shit if we are just fucking and there is no relationship involved. If you want to see me at my rawest, most intimate, my most primal self, you as a man are going to need to put in the work to make me feel cherished, valued, and seen outside of the bedroom. And the same applies to relationships. I am not going to allow someone to be in a relationship with me who is not going to put the effort forward, who is not going to sit here and make me feel valued as a person. I'm not going to be in a relationship, sexual or fucking just sexual, or with a committal relationship with someone who can't put in the effort to make me feel good and to validate me and to make me, I don't know, feel in that moment worthy of them and I worthy of them and they are worthy of me. That's what I think. And so I don't believe that you can really sit here and say sex is different. You can't sit here and say my penis size doesn't matter in sex. It really still fucking doesn't. Because once again, I'm going to bring in the fact that only 60% of women can have orgasms via penetration. Yes, it can feel good, but your dick might not get us off. And so the size isn't a big fucking deal because there are other ways that women can get off that have nothing to do with your penis. I literally did a video the other day, and I'm going to dive more into this on my OnlyFans VIP page about the different types of orgasms women can have. I think there were seven different types of orgasms women can have. And only 2 of them required penetration out of 7. Actually, I lied. Yeah, 2 of them. The G-spot and anal. And like both could be penetration of a toy, not even your penis. So when we sit here and we look at the size of your dick needing to matter during sex, to an extent, yeah. But if it is smaller, there are other ways that you can please a woman. It's just men tend not to want to put in that fucking effort. They want to, what is it? Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, and turn over. They want to turn fucking lovers over like a fucking restaurant turns table over during dinner rush. And so men look at sex like it's just sex. And to some women, once again, not all women, it's not just sex. And that's because we are programmed to, 1, hate our bodies, 2, be afraid of our bodies, 3, not be able to express ourselves sexually without being called a whore. We and sex to us, oral sex, anal sex, vaginal sex is all a level of vulnerability that I don't know if men will ever understand. Some men do, absolutely. But there are a majority of men out there that won't. And so they will compartmentalize the fact that sex can just be 2 people fucking. But I can't. And I want to get up here and talk for those women who can't. I don't think there's anything wrong with having to be emotionally connected to someone to have sex with them, ladies. And that is because it is trust. It is trust that that person will worship and praise your body. It is trust that that person is going to make sure that you are safe every single moment of that act. It is trust to make sure that that person and their pleasure and your pleasure are on equal levels. It takes trust to allow someone to see you at that raw, like fucking primal, intense, sexual way. And so if you are someone out there who says, no, sex and relationships Both require emotion and both require effort. Don't be afraid to communicate that to the people you're with. And then if you recognize that within yourself, don't sit here and try to be something you're not. Don't get involved in situationships where you're just used for your body and for sex because you believe eventually a man will form a emotional connection to you because it is sex. Because apparently some men are wired differently and they can have situationships where they just hit you at fucking 2 a.m. in the morning with like, what you doing? You up? There are men out there that will use your bodies, and there are women out there who will use men's bodies before you come at me with that too. Let's be real. But if you were going to set the energetic standard out there, ladies, that someone who is going to see you at that level needs to put in the fucking effort. You need to feel you are worthy of that effort. You need to recognize that what they are doing does not sit well with you. You can be a sexual being and you can want to fuck all fucking day, and you still need to feel connected to someone. And that is okay. And it's okay to set those boundaries with the people that you're sleeping with. It's okay to literally say to someone, I don't know, like if I have sex with you, this is going to mean more to me than sex. And then if they sit there and say, oh, well, that's not what I'm looking for. Thank fucking God you said it beforehand, before you did get your feelings involved, before you did intimately connect with them, and walk away from that. Don't decrease your values or drop your boundaries because you are afraid to lose another person, because that person is never going to see you anything more than a fuck. And you may see you more than that. You will always see you more than that, but they may not be able to give you that. And that's not their problem. It's not your problem. It's a lack of communication that is a problem. It is that sometimes women, when they get into relationships and situationships with people, with someone they really like, women tend to drop their value. And they tend to forget how fucking valuable they are. They start to think, and I think I said this on a podcast episode before, maybe it was an Instagram story. They start to think that they are so lucky to have that other person and tend to forget that that other person is lucky to have them. And so they drop their own value in order not to lose someone else. And that's not fair to you guys, ladies. So just be honest. If you need that emotional connection, say it up front. And then if they can't do that for you, walk away. Don't get yourself involved in something that is going to emotionally destroy you while another person walks away like it never fucking fazed them. Don't do that to yourselves. No one deserves to go through that pain. I've been through that pain. I've seen friends go through that pain. It is a pain that is so fucking rough and raw and terrible. But it could all be changed by you communicating your wants and desires, ladies. And even if a situationship starts, right? And it's meant to just be sexual because you believe that you can do it just sexually. This applies to men too, right? Oh, we're just going to hook up. It's just going to be sex. And then all of a sudden it becomes more than sex to one of you. Don't be afraid to communicate that to your person, even if you have the ability of losing them. Because if you don't, you will be miserable because they will be unfazed. And at that point, it ends up being your fault instead of theirs. And you have to take responsibility for that. Oh, fuck, I've had to do that before. Holy shit. I call them come to Jesus moments with myself, of where I recognize how bad I fucked up in situationships and friendships and relationships, because I got to a point where I couldn't just, or I did say it and then I still let it fly anyway. And so maybe you can learn from my personal experiences of massively fucking up on every fucking level possible as a human being, and allow my mistakes to, I don't know, give you permission to take the higher ground or a different path, or to at least speak and communicate what you're feeling now before your feelings get even more wrapped up into it. Because apparently men can compartmentalize it, and sometimes women can't. And there are sometimes women who can compartmentalize it and men who can't. No one is right or wrong, right? If we are going to talk about sexuality and expression of sexuality, we're going to accept every expression, even the expression that we don't agree with, right? I don't agree with the fact that sex is different from emotions, but that is my opinion and my perspective and my own personal views on it. It doesn't mean that a man or a woman out there who says, no, I can just have sex for fun and walk away is wrong. Absolutely not. I'm going to fucking applaud them. They can do something I never can do. And I don't look at that as in judgmental. I look at that as in like, Jesus, that's fucking awesome. I wish I had that level of security. I truly do. And so, although I may not agree with the concept that sex is different from relationships, that's my own personal experience. And if you were able to compartmentalize them, or if you disagree with me on that, that's okay too. This is a podcast for open discussions and, I don't know, open viewpoints and stepping outside of ourselves and saying, in this world that is trying to force us to pick black or white, right? Everything is either black or white. Every decision you make is black or white. Everything is right or wrong. And I want this to be a podcast where we can sit here and say, actually, there's a lot of gray in this area. There's a lot of in between, because society right now has forced us to get very, this is right, this is wrong, this is black, this is white, this is how you do things, this is how you don't. And so it's creating this extreme, what's the word? This extreme mentality within people where it's all or nothing. It's this side of the fence or that side of the fence. And there are so many people out in the world who sit here and say, wait, there is so much distance between this side of the fence and that side of the fence. And both have valid points. And so I can agree with both of them, and I can be in the middle. I want this podcast to be a space where people can explore that gray area. This is how we talk about marriage, even too. You're either like married or you're single. You can't be married and be with other people. Yes, you fucking can. I want this to be a space where everyone gets educated, including myself. Because at first, when I saw those comments, I was like, these fucking people. What do you fucking mean sex is something different? What do you mean sex is emotionless? But even in my own introspective, I was like, shit, they're just as right as I am. I may not agree with it. I don't like how they're going about it, where they say it doesn't, like, they're not going to put the effort in just to fuck. Like, good luck, bro. Like, that's not going to work for you, but whatever. But I can also recognize that I don't understand that perspective, because I'm not a man or I'm not a woman who is able to openly do that. But that doesn't mean that they're wrong. And it just, I don't know, expands my mind and allows me to step outside of myself and recognize that every single person is on this planet is unique and different. And I've said that from the beginning, but even stepping into sexual empowerment coaching, you see it more and more and more, how different everyone is on this planet. And I am a big component of, if you're different doesn't mean you're wrong. Just means that's how you want to live your life. And so I hope you gained some perspective yourself on this podcast. I don't know, this podcast went about 7 different ways, which is typically what happens. But I'd love to know if you're listening to this and it's resonating or it's not resonating. Like, feel free to send me a DM and say, like, hey, I listened to your podcast episode. Like, I agree with you. Or I'm one of those people who can compartmentalize sex from like emotions, and like share your perspective with me, as long as you're doing it in a educational way and not a harmful way, which some of the comments were very harmful, right? Like always laced with like, oh, you're a fucking idiot or something like that. I will not hear that, but I will hear people and their different opinions on different things, because I think that we all need to have more discussions on this, because if all of us are just yelling at each other, no one's fucking listening to each other and nothing ever gets done. So if you liked this episode, if you know someone who needs to hear it today, feel free to share it. I love you all so much, and I will see you on the next episode. You guys, thank you so fucking much for listening to the Fierce as Fuck podcast with me. Remember, the key to being successful in your business is taking the information you learn here and reworking it to fit your business and your style. The most important thing you do now is move your ass. Don't sit on this information. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Take messy, inspired action and watch your business take quantum leaps in such a short amount of time. Be sure to join my Facebook community, the Fierce as Fuck Tribe, to get involved in a community full of badass bitches who are taking massive leaps, not only in their lives, but in their business as well. Oh, and of course, don't forget to head over to iTunes and leave me a review. Until next time, my beautiful bitches.